What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Hey everybody, it's Aridos here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today, if you couldn't already figure it out, we're going over the Love Cup coming out on Monday. What the hell is Monday? February 7th at 3 o'clock Central Time. So, I'm going to get you prepped and ready for this weirdo cup here. The premise of this meta is anything that is red or pink in color, according to the Pokedex entries, can be eligible for this cup. So we're going to go through it in some steps. I've broken down all of the really useful meta picks into some groups. We're going to go over the groups, and then we're going to talk about each one as individuals, if they're worth talking about, and skip over things like Chansey that don't really warrant much conversation. But there's some interesting stuff in this meta, so without further ado, let's jump right into this first core here, or first not core, first group here. And we've got on the top, I've got the pink lickers, the Lickitung and Licky Licky. Those are probably going to be very popular picks, especially the XL Lickitung. It's very good in Great League and other leagues that it's in, so if you've got one, you're probably going to use it. Chansey's in this cup as well. We don't talk about Chansey. The thing is a pile of pink, steaming doo-doo. And Alomomola, the Mola is in the cup as well, being the de facto waterfall fish that has access to Psychic Hydro Pump as its moveset. It's very, very bulky. It's like a Charmer in that it can do a lot of fast move damage, and once in a while it gets to a move. Now, I'm not going to put too much effort into talking about these because you guys probably know more than enough about what these things can do. Just a note about Licky Licky, because it is a little bit less common. It does run typically Body Slam and any combination of Shadow Ball and Earthquake. And another quick little tidbit note about Lickitung is if you're going to run it, try it with Hyper Beam. No lie. Like the Hyper Beam Lickitung can flip as a safe swap. It can flip matchups very easily with a stab Hyper Beam to the face. Scrafty is going to have a hard time coming back from that. I think it also almost takes out the Medicham. Able to deal super effective damage with Lick to the Medicham seals that matchup pretty nicely. As long as your opponent doesn't see the Hyper Beam coming, that should actually be a pretty good safe swap option for you. The bottom half here, I have the fire types, where I've got Magcargo and Talonflame as the Incinerate users that will dominate at least half of the teams on this meta. They're going to be all over the place, so be ready for them. That's why Lomomola and Magcargo and Talonflame are going to be brutal enemies because they all fear the fish. Alomomola is going to take care of all the fire types quite handily, so just if you're not running one, you counter one, basically. It's very rock, paper, scissory in that aspect. So Castform and Charizard are a bit spicier. Charizard's ranked as number 6 on PvPoke, but I'm pretty sure that most of those sims are assuming that it can get the Dragon Claw as a bait successfully and then land the Blast Burn. So that's probably where most of that's going to come from, but still Charizard's very strong. It's very frail in the Great League, so just remember that when you're using one. In Castform, having access to Ember, Weather Ball, and I think it has Solar Beam too. Let's see, what's the move set for Castform? Yeah, Solar Beam is going to be that next move. You can't run it with Fire Blast, but if you're already running it with Weather Ball, you might as well just go with the Solar Beam nuke to kind of get back at the Alomomola. Not a whole lot to talk about here. You know, Magcargo is one of those new mons that got the buff in this season with Rock Tomb getting that move buff as well as it getting Incinerate. And so that has put Magcargo in a position to be extremely meta in this format, and you're going to see a lot of it. I'm going to try and have fun using it too. I recently built one, and I got to use it. I mean, why not? And Magcargo is so cool. Its Incinerate hits like a truck too. If it's not, like, it beats Chansey. That's all I need, is that it can beat Chansey. Next group here, I'm going to get into the Charmers and the Razor Leafers. This is basically a page of garbage. This is the things that you're not looking to run if you don't have to. And if you see somebody else running it, you know it's going to be out there. Someone's going to run some form of Grass Hole. Someone's going to run some form of Charm Pit. So don't sleep on the Charmers, but at least just remember that they're out there if you're not going to use them. I don't know, man. Charmers are what they are. They're heavy hitting. They got some bulk to them, and they're not. I mean, they're not bad. They're just annoying to deal with because of how skillless they are. So again, I'm not gonna take too much time on this. If you're gonna run the Vileplume, run the Shadow version. And Cherim, you can run it with Bullet Seed as well, so it's not as degenerate as a Razor Leafer, but it's an option because it has access to Fire Weather Ball. It's not too bad. Sylveon, if you're going to run it, you're going to want to run it with the Psyshock because of all the poison types all over the place. And then Aromatisse has Psychic as well. I believe it also has a Fairy move. Oh no, it's the one that has Thunderbolt. So it's got Psychic and Thunderbolt. So it's got some decent coverage. You could run it with Moonblast or Draining Kiss, but I feel like with Charm as your fast move, you don't need more Fairy damage. So Psychic and Thunderbolt. I personally think this thing is probably going to be one of the best Charmers in the format if you're running a freaking Charmer, because you can hit you can hit with Thunderbolt, you can take out the fish, and with Psychic you can take out opposing poison types. So that's definitely a Charmer to be very careful of if you're going to run a Charmer. I think that's the one. But not going to take too much more time on this one because you guys already know how Charm works. You know how Razor Leafers are. It's not really a huge deal. Now, in the last Love Cup we had last year, Scrafty and Medicham are everywhere. They're the de facto counter users of the meta. Blaziken's going to be in there as a counter user as well. It's got access to the Blaze Kick fire type move. It's also got Blast Burn as a community day move. It's also got the Brave Bird as a nuke, and it can even run Stone Edge, which will one-shot your Talonflame and Magcargo most likely. It's a good anti-Magcargo kind of measure. So, you know, if you're seeing a lot of Magcargos or other things that your Blaziken can come out and beat, then you'll go for it. But it's going to be very frail in this cup, and you have to be very careful of the confusion users as well as the waterfall from the fish. You've also got your bug types that I've kind of thrown down here on the bottom. These aren't all the bug types in the format, but these are probably the most relevant ones. Scizor is not going to be necessarily the best one, and the bullet punch damage is going to be resisted by a lot of things. But it's very dangerous. It has Night Slash. It has Iron Head. It's a very dangerous thing. If it gets a chance, it can sweep the whole team. So you have to remember that it exists. Aridos is also here as the Poison Sting user here in the format that has access to Lunge and Cross Poison. It can double resist fighting moves, which is really nice. It's going to be a good counter to fighting types, and it can also handle a lot of the confusion users that come in because of the bug typing move that it has Lunge. So it doesn't deal with Incinerate users, it doesn't deal with Rock users, and it also just has a bad time against confusion users. So it gets walled by a lot of things in this meta. It's here, but it's not going to be like top meta or anything. It's one of those things where you kind of have to get the main counter out of the way for it to really do work, or put it in lead so that it has at least the chance to dip out against a bad matchup. Crustal is very interesting. Did you know that Crustal beats Magcargo? I didn't until I looked it up. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen. It can whoop a Magcargo's rear end all the way into next week. Now, the reason why is because actually rock damage does not resist rock damage in Pokemon, which was something that I actually didn't really know until recently, despite my very good typing knowledge. I didn't realize that was not resisted damage, so you've got the ability to hit a Magcargo really heavily with Smackdowns, where they're only doing neutral damage with Incinerate. And while, yes, they're going to be able to hit you for super effective damage with Rock Tomb and or Stone Edge, you're going to be able to, if you can bait the shield, all you have to do is get to a Rock Slide. By the time you get to the Rock Slide, they have to shield if they go down. Rock Slide does 50% to a Magcargo. So that's the Crustal wins in every scenario except for the zero shields. And then any situation afterwards where the Magcargo has a shield advantage and it has no shields. So the only way, as you can see down here, is that Magcargo only wins if the Crustal has no shields. That's really it. So just keep it in mind. Just keep it in mind. Wormadam's here as a steel type that has access to confusion. Very good moveset. As far as, you know, being able to deal with things. Here we've got Wormadam. Pull him up here. It's got Iron Head, Bug Buzz. Iron Head and Bug Buzz being a very strong moveset that isn't really walled by a whole lot in this meta except for the fire types. So hopefully you've got an answer for fire types like most would. Mola is going to be a really solid core mate for the bug types down here on the bottom. Scolipede is very strong. However, it's also very frail. Scolipede being more of an attack-weighted Pokemon, it has some bulk to it, but not a whole lot. Poison Jab got that buff, so it does have play. You could run it with Mega Horn if you want to, but you're probably not going to get to the Mega Horn and get it off if you run it. So just keep that in your head. If you run Scolipede, it's very strong. The Poison Jab damage is very good, but I have another Poison Jab user in my heart that I love in Love Cup, and you guys are going to see him actually right on this slide here. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on these. Any of these things that you guys want to take some more time to look at, just head to PvPoke and check out the rankings page, check out the matchups, get kind of acquainted with whatever team it is that you want to run, and try and get some of those matchups in your head so you remember what you can win and lose against. Because the first couple of days of any meta are really, really up in the air, especially when there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming into it. So in this particular slide here, I've got the kind of like de facto safe swaps as well as the slow boys. Now, Electrode Seeking, very prominent safe swaps from last year's Love Cup. You know how they go. You need the triple legacy Seeking that is able to tangle with a lot of things that a normal water type wouldn't because of Drill Run, and it's also able to handle a lot of flying types and things like that because of Icy Wind. So that's going to be a good move set to have if you're going to play the Seeking. You kind of need that move set. It can also handle most Charmers because of Icy Wind, being able to debuff the Charm damage while getting off that Poison Jab, super effective damage, really nice. Electrode, really, really quick to charge to its moves, and most of them run with Hyper Beam in this cup to get you off guard. So just keep in mind, if you see an Electrode trying to bait you with Discharge at 5-volt switches, it's probably got Hyper Beam, or they're trying to get your shield. That's why it's so strong, though, is because it can get shields very easily or flip a matchup with Hyper Beam. Solrock is up here, is not so much a safe swap, but it's a rock type, has confusion, has rock damage. It's a very good anti-fire answer because of that rock slide. It's a good anti a lot of things. Just be careful of, again, the fish and anything that really doesn't much care for having to deal with confusion. You can handle it. Now, Octillery's up here. It's really spicy more so than anything, but because it's got Octazooka, it has the ability to flip some matchups. But because of its lack of bulk and the fact that the only other move that it can really put off is Gunk Shot, you're not really looking at a whole lot. And I understand that the move set here is with Water Gun. Lock On is also, it's viable, but you're not gonna. I'm going to run it with Lock On if I run it because I want to get some moves quicker. But you could also run it with Mud Shot because they charge very quickly. But, the moveset on Octillery is not great. If you're not able to get a boom with Gunk Shot and take something out, you're probably going to have to rely on Octazooka damage. And a lot of the matchups that Octillery wins are all because it can go straight Octazooka. Notice none of these are moves. Flareon's up here, for Christ's sake. You're not going to go Gunk Shot against any of these things. You're going to go straight for the Octazooka because of the super effective damage. All of these losses over here, Clefable is one of the ones that I looked at, and I'm like, how do you lose this? It's because Clefable is able to charm down the Octillery before it can get the shield with Octazooka and then get the Gunk Shot off. Now, if you get the debuff, maybe you can get to that Gunk Shot because it's very close to getting the Gunk Shot. If we take a look at that matchup, this is kind of how most of the Charmers go, though, with Octillery. It's not going to be able to get to the Gunk Shot. Freaking Water Gun. I don't want Water Gun. I want Lock On. If you look at Lock On, yes, it gets to the Octazooka, and then in this particular scenario, last time I sim this scenario, this is only a win for Octillery if it gets the shield with Octazooka and you get the debuff. If you do not get the debuff, you do lose this matchup. As you can see, the Octillery is literally one charm away from getting just taken out. So that's the only way that it wins, is if it can get the Gunk Shot. Now, a Gunk Shot, however, will do 111% of a Clefable's HP, so you've got that going for you at the very least, right? So if you're running Octillery, that's the way to go with Gunk Shot, but just remember that that's what kind of position you're going to be thrown into, is if you can't get the debuff off of it with Octazooka, then you're not going to be sitting in a great situation. Now, the slow boys are going to be very interesting in this meta. Reason why, you got Slowbro, can handle the fish. It can handle Magcargo. It can handle Medicham. It can handle Melodic. It can handle Scolipede. It can handle every poison type because Confusion. It can handle all the other water types, basically just the fish. And it loses strangely, to Talonflame, but that's because probably landing the Brave Bird. Same thing with Charizard, landing just a really heavy Blast Burn or hitting with a lot of Dragon Claws. Vileplume makes sense here because the damage from Razor Leaf is going to outdo the damage from Confusion, and then Clefable is just going to be able to charm it down because of the lack of being able to get a charge moves. Confusion doesn't hit as hard as Charm, and Lickitung is going to probably end up getting a Power Whip off, but it also does super effective damage to Slowbro because of the Psychic typing and the licks that are coming in. So I'm not as keen on this version. What I'm into is Galarian Slowbro. Look at this thing. So, beats Medicham, Clefable, Wigglytuff, Vileplume, Mola, and it can also tussle. It can tussle with Scrafty over here. The reason why Scrafty's over here in the losses category is because that one shield scenario where it tanks a foul play, it does lose. So if you don't take a foul play, you're doing fine. You can either like try to catch the foul play, or you could try to, just get an energy advantage, come back later maybe. You're not running it with Confusion. I'm not running it with Confusion in this particular scenario. Sludge Bomb and Focus Blast is the preferred move set. While it does get stab off of Psychic, Psychic is just kind of a meh move, and I would rather have the ability to nuke something like a Chansey with a Focus Blast. That is a lot more fun to me. So that's what I'll be using. This is actually one of the things that I'm aiming to use in the cup. So its counterpart, Galarian Slowking, and Slowking himself, not so great. Slowking is nothing but nukes, so you're not going to be able to really get very far with it as far as like getting shields. It's going to be one of those things where you just need energy on it, and you need to be able to get some moves and have shields down, hopefully. It makes a good closer with energy, but Slowking, Galarian Slowking, is again, it has the same issue where it has Sludge Wave, Shadow Ball, but Hex is not bad. And Confusion is stab damage that allows it to do some good damage against other things like poison types. And it can even actually beat Wigglytuff and all the other Charmers because of that poison typing that it has. And it can land that Sludge Wave. So you're gonna be a little bit more on the spicy end with Galarian Slowking, but definitely an interesting pick. Now, we chose Confusion over Hex in this scenario, in this cup, because Confusion is going to be landing a lot more often into super effective targets. There's not really any ghost types in this meta, and there's very few psychic types. So you could run Hex if you wanted to. I certainly wouldn't fault you for it, but it's really up to preference. You can see a lot of poison types, so Confusion is typically the good moveset to go with, especially because Slowking doesn't really have another way to deal with poison types other than Confusion. So moving onwards to the super spicy stuff. Super spice here, except for Melodic. Melodic's really the only thing that's not super spicy. It's just got Dragon Tail buff, so it's a little bit less used. But Melodic is really interesting because it's a water type. Is sort of similar to a Alomomola, that it has the waterfall. It can also use Dragon Tail. Heavy fast move damage here. It's got Surf to do some chip damage if it needs to, and then it's got Hyper Beam to blast things with if it needs to, but it could also run Blizzard if it wants to get some heavy ice damage off. Ice isn't really going to be super common in this meta, so you're going to be better off with the Hyper Beam, just to hit more targets. Excuse me. But you obviously win against the fire types. You can also beat the Charmers on a mostly decent basis because you're able to outbulk them just barely and hit back with Waterfall with stab damage, so that's going to be nice. You do lose to a Mola because you don't have any non-water coverage moves other than Hyper Beam. So what are you going to do? Get a shield with Hyper Beam, the thing going to hit you with a Psychic, and then you're going to go down. So it's a very close matchup, though. And then even Medicham and Scrafty are fairly close. Scolipede is going to be able to do a lot of damage, and then Lickitung outbulks and gets to a Power Whip to take it out. So the rest of this stuff is spicy. I'm not going to go super crazy, but I'm going to tell you about it. Karate Chop Magmortar with Thunderbolt. Able to safe swap in and draw out a counter type or a counter to your fire types. Maybe you run it with Magcargo, maybe you run it with Talonflame. It's going to be able to bring out that water type, and it might be able to either flip the script or get a shield against not fish. So if it's a water type, it can get hit with a Thunderbolt and it won't like it, and you might get a shield for it, which will be nice. Corsola, if you've got it, good for you. Go for it. This is about the only cup you're ever going to use it in. Corsola has Bubble, has Rock Blast, and has, I think, Bubble Beam. So it's not going to be a super great moveset. It's going to be kind of grindy, and It's there. It's there. You got one, use it. It's going to be fun. Durmanitan is another Incinerate user in this cup. It has a very broad moveset, so it's very spicy. Not a bad safe swap, in my opinion. If you're looking to learn how to spell, I'm not the place to do it. Durmanitan has Incinerate, Rock Slide, and Overheat as the preferred, but you can also run it with Psychic and Focus Blast. So you can really play some mind games with people running some unusual movesets on this thing if you want to. And it's just not that bulky, so you might not even get to some of these moves. You can see it's got very poor defense, got some good stamina, but the attack weight makes it so the CP shoots up much faster than if you were to have a bulkier mon. But again, super spicy, something you could run if you're looking to mess with people and get some real fun games in. Druddigon, everybody's got one at this point. Whether you got one under 1500, I don't know. It's not going to be great, but it's the only dragon type that we can really use in this meta, and it has Dragon Tail, it has Night Slash, and it has Dragon Claw. So it's a very spammy moveset and some good damage off Dragon Tail. I just don't know how far it's going to take you, but if you have the ability to use it, I mean, why the heck not? It's another spicy thing that could be fun. Porygon 2 is going to be the best of the 3 Porygons in the cup because of its stats, and it's got basically the same moveset. So you're running it with Lock On, Tri Attack, Zap Cannon. You could run it with Hyper Beam if you want, but I would just run with Tri Attack and Zap Cannon. That's fine. Rotom Wash, Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump with Thunder Shock as a fast move. If you have one, this is the only cup you're going to use it in, just like Corsola. So why the heck not, right? It's actually not a bad typing. It's not a bad not a bad counter. It's a direct counter to a Mola, and it can also handle the fire types as well as a few other things. So it's a very good core breaker, but it's very seldom you're going to see one, and it's not exactly easy to come by because I think the last time we had the chance to get it was like in 2020. So Lenian XL, very thick, not a great moveset. I guess like Bug Bite. Glarion has Bug Bite, Aerial Ace, and Bug Buzz. Very meh moveset, but it's very bulky. He has to be level 51, and I mean, it loses to Charmers, it loses to a Lickitung, and it loses to a Lomomola. That's really all I need to hear because those are the things that are going to be everywhere. And it's not something I need to worry about. Parasect is kind of in the same vein. Very spicy, very interesting. Has Cross Poison, Fury Cutter, X Scissor. Has the ability to handle things. However, it's very meh on stats. And the moveset isn't exactly... It's not exactly going to get you out of any tough situations. Inflexible is going to be one of the best ways to describe it. It's very one-dimensional. Doesn't have a whole lot that it can handle here. Like... Deerling comes up as one of the wins on this category. That's all I really need to say about it. It doesn't resist the Charmers. It's not able to hit against anything that you would like to expect a bug type to really deal with, except for the fact that it can handle Lomomola, it can handle Lickitung, and it can handle these water types, or it can't handle a Lomomola and Lickitung, but it can handle these other water types here, especially Scrafty, because that bug damage does add up quickly. But Smoochum is the only other thing on this page that I want to highlight, because Smoochum, although it needs to be super XL'd, has Powder Snow, Ice Punch, and Psyshock. So it's got a very spammy, very good, decent coverage moveset. Psyshock's going to hit those poison types. Ice Punch and Powder Snow, very spammy move combination here. It can beat Execute and Audino because that's exactly what we need it for, right? Fire types, though, are going to be tough. Alomomola is probably going to hard counter it to High Heaven, so you're not really going to be worried about being able to take out Alomomola because you can't. Metacham's going to be able to just rock this thing. And then Scrafty's not on this list, but I'm sure Scrafty will take it out really quickly, too. You're not worried about Smoochum. Don't be. I wouldn't be. It's just very interesting. That's really about it. Let's take a second, hydrate, and get into some of these cores that I've got here. Now, the first core on this page is the most toxic core of them all. Talonflame, or really any anti-fighter in the lead, honestly. You could put Medicham in there too. With Chansey and Lickitung in the back. If you run this team, and you are already Legend, you should not play Pokemon Go any longer. You should uninstall the game, think about your life choices, and get some help. I'm not going to talk about this core. I don't need to. It's very obvious why it's good. It's just super bulky, and Talonflame is very good. My favorite core, however, going from the worst to the best, in my opinion, is the Scrafty and Slowbro Galarian core. You get the dark poison core here in full effect, and I don't have much. I'm not going to flip back and forth. You can check these out on PvPoke for yourself if you like. But the core between these two is very strong, and most of the things that they can't handle are more neutral matchups. So I'm looking at the core on PvPoke right here on my screen. Charizard, another Scrafty, Scolipede and Aridos kind of break the core a bit here, but they're all neutral. Talonflame's the only thing here that can really seriously break this core, and Talonflame really only owns this core because of the damage that it can do from between Incinerate and Flame Charge. It just makes very short work of the poor Slowbro. If in the because of how long it takes for Slowbro to get to a move, Talonflame's getting to the second Flame Charge before Slowbro can really get anything done. So that's not a matchup that I'm looking to play out in the lead. I'd be swapping out of that, maybe come back with some energy. So that's the only real thing you want to watch out. But everything else is very neutral, easy to handle with a team effort. And Talonflame wins every matchup against Galarian Slowbro that's got even shields or shields in favor of the Talonflame. So you absolutely need a shield advantage to handle Talonflame with Slowbro. But if you have it, just get to one move, or get one shield and get to one move, and two shield, whatever you can do, and you get the win on that. So that's that really strong core. You could run something like, your own Talonflame or Alomomola if you wanted to, just as a third option if you want to try to make it like a balanced team. And speaking of the stupid fish, you've got the Aridos or just bug type, steel type, poison type core with Alomomola, and it's just the water type dealing with the fire types, and the bulk dealing with the things that Aridos can't. This particular core is kind of weak to some of the more neutral things like Slowbro. It's going to have some trouble with. Aridos can land a couple of lunges on a Slowbro and do some hefty damage, and then your Alomomola could finish it off. But Alomomola in a straight fight can't beat Slowbro because confusion damage chunks harder than Waterfall does. And then you don't have anything that you can hit the Slowbro with that'll actually deal some damage. So everything else, though, Wormadam Trash is another one that kind of is tough, but you can beat it with a team effort. It can beat it. Lickitung, I think I mentioned that one, is another one. Everything else is just like the slow boys all break the core a bit, and then Druddigon. These are all things that are very team effort based that you could break with that core, but it's just basically dealing with the fire type core. The fire types with this core. You have a Alomomola to deal with the fire type that's going to come in, and then Aridos can clean up after the fire type is gone, hopefully. The last one is this interesting kind of duo core almost, and I would look at this one on PvPoke if you can. Medicham is really the only thing that really breaks this core and then Slowpoke. That's it. Everything else in the meta seems like it has you have an answer. So this is a sort of balanced team in that the core of Magcargo and Medicham is strong, and then you've got Seeking as a safe swap, but Seeking also actually cores pretty well with Medicham because of its moveset. So those are some interesting cores to keep in mind. I'll be running a combination of a few of these and try and get out the best one that I can find here. I'm going to play around with Love Cup. I hate it. It gave me PTSD, man. I hate Love Cup because in Season 6 when we had Love Cup, I was at 2986, I think. I was 132 away. I dropped literally 400 points last Love Cup right before I hit Legend. I didn't hit Legend that season. It made me so mad. But anyway, everybody, this has been my analysis of the Love Cup meta. It's kind of a broad overview, but hopefully it's enough to get you started. And look forward to seeing some content on my channel for some battles. I'm also hoping to get some Master League Premier Classic in there as well. I'm slowly working on my roster for that. I really hope that this is a video that can help you guys out. This is something that I've been trying to get more out because we get new metas every year, or every season. So having something that you can reference, you can see some cores, see some teams even, and then see some of these meta groups is really good to kind of understand the core meta so that you can formulate a team around it, knowing the knowledge that you have with matchups. So everybody, if you enjoyed this, by the way, please leave a comment, like this video, and even subscribe to my channel. Those things help me out so very much. And if you'd like to support the channel, I do have a Patreon link in the description of this video. You can please click that, and if you'd like to join it, we do offer early access to my videos, team tips, meta analysis tips, literally everything I can do to help you guys get better at GBL. So get in now while it's hot, because once next season starts, if this game is fixed, we're going to take off and we're going to hit the ground running, and it's going to be great. So I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope your Love Cup battles are fantastic, and I also hope that you all have a great day. I will catch you in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.